Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily News. I'm Nicholas Richardson. Polish President Andrzej Duda is encouraging China to invest in Poland. During his visit to China, the Polish president stressed that Poland is a safe, stable and promising location for foreign capital and investment. This is Andrzej Duda's third visit to China. Observers stress its special significance in the context of an increasingly tense geopolitical situation. Polish President Andrzej Duda was one of the speakers at the summer instalment of the World Economic Forum in Dalian. He praised China's economic successes and also Poland's.
Polska także.
Poland has also experienced a development in Europe that is absolutely unprecedented on a European, but also, one could say, on a global scale. He added that Poland is a safe, stable and promising location for foreign businesses, including those from China. Earlier, 5 agreements were signed in the presence of the presidents of the two countries on cooperation in trade, investment cooperation and the development of a Chinese-Polish and Polish-Chinese dictionary, among others. Soon, Poles going to China for 2 weeks will not need visas. These procedures have already been set in motion, so I think we can expect this visa-free travel to become a reality in the coming days, as this is what usually happens in practice here after such an unequivocal declaration by President Xi Jinping. The Polish president's visit was widely covered by Chinese media. Seeing that great changes are taking place in the world in an unprecedented way, President Xi said China is ready to cooperate with Poland, bring bilateral relations to a high level and bring more stability and confidence to a turbulent world. These relations built over the years will survive all regime changes, and good and friendly relations and mutually beneficial economic ties between Poland and China will remain. But the true geopolitical significance of this visit may only be known in a few years. China is already emerging as a major player on the geopolitical map of the world. China will also most likely be a co-participant in the peace process in Ukraine and perhaps co-determine our role in the Eurasian world order after the war. We are directly affected by this whole post-war order, road and belt, that is the Silk Road traditional route. These are fundamental things, and in this sense we are in the game. You can see that President Duda is incredibly active in this space. This was President Andrzej Duda's third visit to China. In recent weeks, the Polish leader has also met US President Joe Biden and former US President and presidential candidate Donald Trump. Konrad Wąż, TV Republika. There are a growing number of illegal migrants who have crossed the Polish-Belarusian border. They say that they come from African countries and came to Belarus via Moscow. Experts point out that Wagner Group mercenaries may also be involved in the smuggling and training of migrants. Indeed, the mercenaries operate in many African countries, supporting coups and military hunters in those countries. Illegal migrants may be trained to carry out acts of sabotage or diversion in European countries. Our reporter Michał Gwardyński managed to talk to one of the migrants at the centre in Michałowo yesterday. He is one of the many Africans who illegally crossed the Polish-Belarusian border. He ended up in Russia, and then from Russia he crossed the border into Poland. We don't know if he is from Sudan, whether the declaration of this is reliable, and how it happened that he ended up in Moscow. In Sudan, the Wagner Group has made its presence felt by guarding gold mines. Russian mercenaries have been involved in conflicts in Africa and the Central African Republic and Niger for many years. Their presence is both military and commercial. In 2020, the president was overthrown in Mali in a coup. Interestingly, the Wagner Group had been present there for a year. The assets of the former Wagner Group can be used for this and are certainly being used by the Kremlin for this, to pull people from there through Africa and the Middle East to reach Belarus. The Wagner Group came to Belarus after the armed putsch of Group Commander Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was killed in a plane crash last June. The mercenaries are able to train migrants to cross the Polish border and organise acts of sabotage. We know that among these migrants may be agents who are already being trained rather seriously by Russia. In those earlier migrant waves, there were people trained by the Russians, such as people who had been previously involved with the services in Afghanistan. This carries a direct threat to the security of Poland and other countries. One can imagine that there are people who are taught how to commit arson, organise assassinations, or how to carry out various other acts of sabotage. Wagner mercenaries in African countries operate in the areas where terrorist organisations such as Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State are also present. The worst thing that could happen is for them just to recruit these kinds of radicals and via Russia and Belarus try to smuggle them into Europe via Poland. There have been very dangerous situations on the Polish side of the border with Belarus for years. Organisations describing themselves as humanitarian even cooperate with migrants so that they are able to cross the Polish border. Humanitarian organisations, fueled by George Soros's money, sent to France, Italy or Greece a gigantic mass of migrants from Africa or the Middle East, who, later arriving en masse, burst or are bursting these countries from the inside. There has been no terrorist attack in Poland, but there have been direct attacks on Polish soldiers and officers at the border. Sergeant Mateusz Sitek, to whom we recently bid farewell, was killed in the line of duty in one such attack. Łukasz Muda, TV Republica. The potent drug that is ravaging major cities in the United States is also taking a toll in Poland. We have already had 4 deaths from fentanyl overdoses. Despite this, the Polish government has not decided to take radical steps. The threat is all the greater because the distribution of the drug can be used by Russia as a tool in a hybrid war. Police officers from Radom have detained 4 people, 2 women and 2 men, suspected of trafficking one of the deadliest drugs, fentanyl. The drug is 50 times more potent than heroin and equally addictive. We carried out activities in Żyromyń, Puławy and Thrubieszów district. In the course of the activities, we secured more than 330 fentanyl patches. The Ghost of Żyromyń was the name given to a dealer who became notorious after 3 people died after taking fentanyl in late February. With fentanyl, it's like a storm. We know that it's very dangerous because we see these pictures in the United States and we're aware that it's a scary agent and a scary weapon because drugs as an ideological weapon have already been used since the 1960s to destroy society. Up to 100,000 people die annually in the United States from fentanyl overdoses. The drug that enters the United States is produced in China.
W kwietniu tego roku specjalny komitet śledczy Kongresu Stanów Zjednoczonych.
In April this year, a special investigative committee of the United States Congress released a report that proves that components for the production of fentanyl are shipped through China, that this production is supported by the Chinese government, and that fentanyl is mainly produced in Mexico and smuggled into the United States.
Przez chiński rząd i że fentanyl jest produkowany głównie w Meksyku, przemycany do Stanów Zjednoczonych.
Despite the talks that have been held with the Chinese side, not much has changed. After a November meeting between President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Woodside, California, where agreements were made to combat the trafficking of fentanyl precursors, the activities of Chinese companies sending the substance to drug cartels in Mexico stopped. However, just a few weeks later, the circulation of the chemical was expected to return to normal levels. Given what is happening in the United States, the question arises whether this potent drug will also be used in Poland as another element of hybrid warfare. Currently, Russia is using migrants to fight the West. It will certainly be used, just as it was used by Soviet and Bulgarian services to target heroin smuggling to Europe and the United States via the so-called Balkan route. Despite the deaths of 4 people from fentanyl overdoses, the subject went unnoticed by the new Polish government until now, when Donald Tusk reacted strongly to the case with a video on social media.
Fentanyl, duch.
Fentanyl, the ghost of Żyromyń, are words that are symbolic. This is yet another time when the Prime Minister avoids tough questions and does not hold a press conference after a cabinet meeting. If the government does not control who can get into the country and what can get into the country, it will be a very big problem for any government. We will see, of course, how this situation will develop. Marcin Bakalowski, TV Republica. A wave of strange fires has been sweeping through Poland for the past 2 months. Initially, Polish Prime Minister Tusk said they cannot be linked to Russia. Over time, however, his narrative has changed. Significantly, as early as late April and early May, Western intelligence was already sounding the alarm that Moscow would be carrying out provocations across Europe. What has the Polish government done about it? Experts say that Prime Minister Tusk's actions have not helped Poland. A warehouse on Mariwilska Street in Warsaw, an illegal sandfill in Siemianowice Śląskie, or, most recently, the Azoty plant in Puławy. All these places are linked by mysterious fires. There is no hard evidence as to the Russian side's involvement in them, but the destruction of Polish infrastructure is part of the hybrid war Moscow is waging. More than 2 months ago, before the fires even appeared in Poland, British intelligence warned of such a scenario. Russia has begun to prepare more and more strongly for bombings, arson, and the destruction of critical infrastructure across Europe, either directly or through its proxies. The Kremlin is not concerned about civilian casualties. The Prime Minister initially refused to link the fires to Russia. For now, there is no reason to believe that it is the result of external forces. However, time passed and the mysterious fires grew in number. In time, Donald Tusk admitted that they may be linked to Russia. The latest developments are not being commented on by the head of government. More disturbing incidents, fires, explosions at Polish industrial sites, and so on for months. What does the government say about it? The issue is not about soccer, so it is probably not among Donald Tusk's priorities. Poland has been the victim of attacks by Russian hackers in recent months. On the 31st of May, Moscow launched a cyber attack on the Polish press agency with false information intended to cause panic. It was Donald Tusk's government that a few months ago curtailed the Charlie CRP cyber shield, which was supposed to protect our country from such attacks. Only now the new government is certain that Russia is waging a hybrid war against us. We have known for several days that there are specially delegated two groups that were created by the Russian Special Service, the GRU, which addressed one group to sow disinformation and the other group to cripple critical infrastructure in the coming weeks and holiday months. Russia has been conducting hostile actions against us for years. What does Donald Tusk's government say about it? It has carried out a successful crusade against the Pegasus system, which has also been used against Russian agents, and set up a new commission to investigate Russian influence, headed by people from the former military information services. These people, even if they were competent, which they are not, would have had to learn a lot of things, and there is no time for that. Therefore, we are in a situation of gradual degradation of the security potential of the Polish state, and there is no indication that this process will effectively be stopped. Russia's hybrid war against Poland is gaining momentum. Every day, services are risking their lives to protect our border with Belarus. The fires and growing cyber attacks may indicate that Moscow is working harder and harder to set fire to all of Europe. That's the news. Thank you for watching, and from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.